Hey guys, it's Tony Suits with Backwoods Biker Magazine and Wood Tramp Outdoors. You know, after we posted our video on how to make a homemade rocket stove, we were inundated with a lot of questions, emails from subscribers. They wanted to know if we could show some comparisons. So that's what this is going to be, a little good, better, and best rocket stove. Hang tight, we'll be right back. Alright, so questions came in. There were several about this particular homemade rocket stove that we have right here. And I thought, you know, I may as well go ahead and do this comparison video to give you kind of a better educated viewpoint of it. But before I even start, you know, you've heard about something not being rocket science. And I've got to tell you that when it comes to rocket stoves, there is a science that you need to understand in order to be able to have these perform, whether it's a homemade one or a top-of-the-line one. You got to kind of know the science behind it, the understanding of it, because it is a bio stove that requires some human interaction with it. So we've got to know what's going on science-wise. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to break off the shot, and I am going to prepare these all the same for their first ignition. And I'm going to be using pine cones and pine needles to do that. And then once they start burning, then I'll add the fuel, and they're all going to have the same pot on them one at a time. So I'll be right back. I've loaded them all up and they're ready to fire up. And what we're going to do is going to go in order from the homemade to the better to that absolute best. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to just kind of walk you through a couple things here. You know, let's talk about the concept of the rocket stove, because a lot of people get these things wrong, and they're designed for quick. They're designed for a very quick response, quick boil. They're not used for long-term cooking. You know, you can cook breakfast on these. You can cook a quick lunch on these. When I say quick, I mean quick, because as you'll see here, you have to babysit these types of stoves. They go just a few twigs at a time. You can't just pack them and then walk away, because they'll burn out quick. They need to be fed. And it doesn't matter if it's one that you made at home or one that you buy from a very well-known company. They all have the basic principles and the basic purpose. And again, the basic purpose is for quick boiling of water or cooking of food or whatever. They're definitely not for heat. And you know, the difference between them is, you know, this one is very inefficient, and this one is very inefficient as well, because they're just primary combustion stoves. That's it. You get the first burn and all the gases go off. I call them the good gases go off, and you don't have a chamber with which to burn those secondary gases, you know, the gasification that happens. So I'm going to go ahead and get this pot ready. That's going to be the same pot throughout. I'm going to put one bottle of water, it's a pint of water in each, and we'll time them as we go. And as it's doing that, I'll be back and I'll be able to show you and talk to you more about this stove in detail, because there were some questions and some modifications I made. So hang on. See that this is burning here. You know, it's ready to go here. But I want to point out, with all rocket stoves, you want to make sure that the diameter of your fuel is correct. You don't want it to be any bigger than like a jumbo pencil. And you just want to stick the ends of that in. That's basically ready to start. Now, I'll go ahead and put the timer on here. Stick this pot on. Let's put in 1 pint of water. And we will see how long this particular stove takes to be able to boil that water. I wanted to give you a little bit tighter shot, you know, to be able to see this and talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of having a homemade rocket stove. Well, first of all, price is going to be one of them. The materials in this cost less than $30, about $30, maybe 25 cents, something like that. But it's a coffee can that came from Sam's Wholesale, big 3-pound can. The chimney and the elbow is just 3-inch water heater type of ventilation. And then I had some sheet metal that I used my shelf with. And then the most expensive thing that I used was ceramic insulation. You know, as this is burning, it's not really hot to the touch because I filled it full of ceramic insulation. Cool little project, but you can see it doing its thing. But the disadvantages to this is that it's super inefficient. I don't have a damper here that if I put the damper on here, it would probably burn a whole lot better if I did. I just didn't do it. You know, maybe something I'll add later, I don't know. The cooking time is going to be longer with these. The amount of fuel that you have with a stove like this that you build on your own probably is going to be double, if not triple, than one that is a gasifier that has been designed to have a secondary burn. So that would be the disadvantage of this. You know, price is really it. Or if you just want to, you know, piddle around your garage or whatever. But does it work? Absolutely. Who would be a candidate for a stove like this? Well, number one, if you're on a budget, obviously. Number two, bikers could very easily carry the stove. It's super light because of the ceramic insulation. It doesn't have the old style that's kind of made out of rocks, sometimes sand, perlite, just different stuff that they put in here. But it's super light. Now you notice I keep feeding this. That's what you have to do with these. That's why you can't walk away and cook beans on this and think you're going to have a meal when you come back. All you have is ashes. But as you can see, it's working well. Who else would benefit from this? You know, I said bikers because you can fit this in a saddlebag. Backpackers could even use a light one like this. It'll fit in a backpack with no problem. A little larger than what most backpackers want to carry, but you know, it would work for them. It's not that heavy at all. So if you're on a budget, now I gotta tell you, we're real close to boiling here. Got the lid going here. I would say within the next minute, and we've been going right now at about 3 minutes and 40 seconds. I can feel it doing the dance in there. So you just got to keep feeding these. You know, and again, because of the design, it's inefficient. You're going to use a lot of fuel with this. But again, if you're on a budget, you know, it's an easy project. Go see our video out there on how to build a rocket stove. We got us a boil in there. What's boiling on the bottom? I'll let it officially roll. And see how that goes. All right. Hang tight. All right, so it took 4 minutes and 22 seconds to boil water in the homemade rocket stove. Now we're going to use the one from Hellfire. This is the Hellfire rocket stove. Happened to come to us through BattleBox. Same basic principles. And I'll get this pot going here. Fill it up with 1 pint again. and we'll see how long this takes. Now they call this a self-feed stove. It has a couple dampers on it, one on the very bottom, one here, which is helpful. It really is. But as far as self-feed, I've never found one of these to work. So we're going to just allow this to go, and I'll be back in just a couple minutes here again, see where this happens. All right, we've got it loaded up with fuel. We've got the bottom damper up, and this one here, I just let it sit on top of the fuel as it feeds. And again, even though they call it a self-feeder, it's really not, you know. So let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of this. First of all, the disadvantages is just like this, it's a very inefficient stove. And believe it or not, it might even be more inefficient than what the homemade one is, because of the simple fact that this is put together in pieces. It comes to you in a bag, and you have to put it together piece by piece. And it can be cumbersome. Number two, it's heavy. And the fuel that you use is going to be a lot more than this one here because of the extra large chamber. You know, the chimney's pretty tall here, but will it work? Yes, it does work. The advantages are that it gets very hot and it will heat stuff quicker than this one. Now remember, we're at 4 minutes and 20 some seconds here. This has been on there probably about a minute. Same water, same pot, everything's the same there. And all we're doing is just letting this stuff feed as it goes. And you can see how well the fire is going. Cost on this guy is like $79. You know, who would be a candidate to use these? A backpacker could take this. It's a little heavy for a backpacker, but it folds, it comes apart, and it's in a flat bag, which makes, you know, a lot of advantages. It'll go in a backpack very well. For a motorcyclist that's a bushman, putting in your saddlebag and then putting it in your backpack, it'll work for you too. A lot of room in those saddlebags to put things. It will cook, but again, it's not made for your main primary source for cooking. You won't cook any long-term stuff in here. It's going to be just short-term things. You won't roast a rabbit on here. You won't cook chilies. You won't cook a stew. You won't cook beans on this. You know, out of a can you will, but you're not going to do ham and beans. That is awesome, you know, out in the bush when you have those. But that's basically what I could tell you about this guy right here. You know, is it any better than this one here? There are some advantages of it, but when it really comes down to it, I'm still pointing to this one to be a better option than this, especially if you're on a budget. All right, but you know, if you're not and you like that modular option of being able to fold it up in pieces and put it in that flat bag, it's a great one. All right, now I'm hearing this thing moving here. Oh yeah, quick boil, and that has been about 3 minutes. Yeah, it's going. So it was quicker than the homemade one. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut this down here. All right, guys. You can see it's going on here. This is the Silverfire Survivor. In my experience with rocket stoves, this is probably the best rocket stove I've ever seen, I ever laid eyes on. Everything from Silverfire has been well thought out. This just isn't a rocket stove, but this is a secondary burn. It has the primary and the secondary, got the gasification going on. Okay, so you're not going to need as much fuel. It took me probably a third of the time to light it. I've only put 6 pieces of fuel in there, and these are number 2 pencil size. This is number 4 pencil size, you know, the jumbo pencils, and you can see how this is going on here. So let me get my pot on, and we'll see how long. Now the first one was 422, and this was just under 3.5 minutes. Didn't take very long. And this one, I've not boiled anything on it yet, so I don't know. Here we go. Now, while that's going, let me just tell you a little bit why this stove differs than these other two. Other than, you see that it is bigger, has a bigger chimney in it. I'm not doing a review on any of these because these I've already reviewed on, and then we have a review coming out for this in another, I don't know, a few days or whatever. Okay, but the biggest difference to me is the efficiency that you get with a stove like this that has been designed the way it does. It just doesn't have a secondary burn chamber, but to help those secondary gases burn right, there is 360 degrees of ventilation on the bottom where it comes up through that double wall and helps to promote that secondary burn. Is a secondary burn important? Well, yeah, it is important, because that is where you're getting that efficiency from. All right, now you see me putting a little more fuel in here, and I've been talking, but the way to really use these right is you just put the tips in. You don't shove it all the way to the back, you just put the tips in, like so, and you have to shut the door down, okay? You can't leave the door open on these. I was running my mouth too much. Really want to get that door down. There you go. Now that'll help with that. So we're going to let this go, and we're just timing it. Again, we're just comparing the stoves today. No real reviews. So hold on, let's see how long this takes to boil. So it's been about 3 minutes here. This thing is boiling really good. I let them all come to a rolling boil. That was my benchmark there. So I'm just going to take this off. And while this is burning out. Alright guys, so there you have it, that comparison that you asked for. Homemade rocket stove, the good one, better one, and the best one out of the three. There are advantages of this. Again, cost less than $30, and it won't be a lifetime stove, but it will last you for a while. The Hellfire rocket stove, you can find that on Hellfire, I think it's hellfirerocketstove.com, or you can get it from Battle Box. This actually came to us in a Battle Box. This was $79. And then, of course, the Silverfire Survivor stove. And the comparison between this one and these is almost not even fair. The price on this is $179.99. Let's just say 180 bucks. This boiled the water in 4 minutes and 22 seconds. This boiled it in 3.5 minutes, and this was just right at or a little under 3 minutes. Once you get it rolling, it doesn't take long. But we're going to be doing a full review on this sometime this week, and then we'll post it probably next weekend or something like that. But it's a great stove. As far as stoves go, if you can afford this one, this is the guy that I would highly recommend. It's a lifetime stove that's going to last you forever. If you ever find yourself in a disaster situation, here in my area we have a lot of tornado problems. Sometimes we do have snow and ice bring down power lines where we're without power. Anything can happen. That's what this stove is built for. I did mention that this is a great stove for those that are wanting a base camp stove, riding out are you motorcyclists. It'll fit in your saddlebag, and you can take it right out and set it up at your base camp if you're out hunting, fishing, or whatever. It'll provide you quick breakfast, quick coffee, and if you have to sanitize your water, very, very quickly. And again, if you use the special pot that is designed for that, you'll do it even faster. And we'll be showing you that next week in full when we do a complete review over the Silverfire Survivor. Again, there's your comparison. You make your decision based upon that. Appreciate you watching this video as well as all the other ones that you watch, and your comments and all your support, that you've given us. Appreciate you reading the magazine. We got some great stuff this year coming up. So listen, hit that subscribe button, and when you do, send us an email down there, Tony@backwoodsbiker.com, and we will put you in our database for giveaways every month. So listen, until next time, you guys ride free, you live free, and as always, you be safe out there.